Today, we're diving into the brutal world of medieval warfare to uncover the most terrifying warriors of the Middle Ages. These men were legends on the battlefield, striking fear into the hearts of their enemies. Let's get started. I bet you didn't know William Marshal, often called the greatest knight who ever lived, was a formidable force in medieval Europe. Born in 1147, his early years were marked by his father's rebellion against King Stephen, during which young William was taken hostage as a pledge for his father's loyalty. William began his training as a knight at a young age, honing his skills in combat, horsemanship, and the chivalric code. William Marshal's skill in tournaments was unparalleled. He won numerous tournaments across Europe, accumulating wealth, fame, and a considerable network of allies. Serving 4 English kings, his unmatched skills in jousting and battlefield strategy made him a legend. At the ripe old age of 70, he led a daring charge into the city at the Battle of Lincoln. How many of you think you could do this in your 70s? William Marshal later died in 1219 at the age of 72. His death marked the end of an era, but his legacy continued to influence the ideals of knighthood and chivalry. Number 9. El Cid. El Cid, whose real name was Rodrigo Diaz de Vivar, is celebrated as one of the greatest warriors of the Middle Ages. Born circa 1043 in Vivar, near Burgos, Spain, he was trained in the arts of war from a young age and quickly proved his skill in combat and leadership. El Cid's most famous achievement was the conquest and defense of Valencia. His defense of Valencia was marked by several successful battles, including the Siege of Valencia. El Cid was even exiled after falling out of favor with King Alfonso VI and served various Muslim and Christian rulers. His ability to switch allegiances and fight for different causes while maintaining his honor and reputation was remarkable. His nickname El Cid comes from the Arabic Al-Sayyid, meaning the Lord or the Master, reflecting the respect he commanded from both Christians and Muslims. El Cid's legacy endured through centuries, influencing Spanish culture, literature, and national identity. Joan of Arc, known as the Maid of Orleans. She had significant impact during the 100 Years' War between France and England. Despite her humble beginnings, Joan exhibited a strong sense of piety and devotion from an early age. At the age of 13, Joan began experiencing visions and hearing voices, which she believed were sent by God, who instructed her to support Charles VII and help drive the English out of France. Despite being a young peasant girl with no military experience, Joan's determination and prophetic insight convinced Charles to grant her an audience. Joan's most famous military achievement was lifting the Siege of Orleans. In April 1429, she led French forces to a decisive victory, breaking the English siege that had lasted for months. In May 1430, Joan was captured by Burgundian forces and sold to the English. Joan was put on trial for charges including heresy, witchcraft, and cross-dressing. The trial was politically motivated, aiming to discredit her and undermine the legitimacy of Charles VII. Despite her articulate defense, she was found guilty and burned at the stake on May 30th, 1431, at the age of 19. Her fearless leadership and divine visions led to pivotal victories against the English, forever cementing her place in history. Number 7. Harold Hardrada. I bet you didn't know Harold Sigurdsson, later known as Harald Hardrada, meaning hard ruler, was born into the Norwegian royal family. He was the half-brother of King Olaf II of Norway, who he fought alongside of at the age of 15. His service in the Varangian Guard between 1034 and 1043 was marked by numerous military campaigns across the Mediterranean, including battles in Sicily, the Holy Land, and Bulgaria. One particularly crazy account involves Harold reportedly scaling the walls of a besieged city, using his men as human ladders. Harold burned down an entire village that refused to pay tribute. He would often use terror tactics, such as public executions and mutilations, to instill fear and ensure loyalty among his subjects and enemies alike. In 1066, Harold invaded England, asserting his claim to the English throne. The Battle of Stamford Bridge on September 25, 1066, marked Harold Hardrada's final and most famous military engagement. Despite initially catching the English forces off guard, Harold's army was eventually overwhelmed. He fought valiantly, but was killed during the battle. Harold's life has been the subject of numerous sagas, poems, and historical works. Number 6. Saladin. Saladin was born in Tikrit, in present-day Iraq, to a Kurdish family. In 1169, after the death of his uncle, Saladin was appointed vizier of Egypt. He quickly consolidated power, dismantling the Fatimid Caliphate and establishing Sunni rule. Saladin led his forces to recapture Jerusalem from the Crusaders, ending nearly 90 years of Christian control. In the Battle of Hattin, Saladin's strategic genius was evident in his ability to lure the Crusaders into an arid area away from water sources, causing them to suffer from severe thirst and heat exhaustion. By 1171, he became the Sultan of Egypt. The Third Crusade, 1189 to 1192, was launched by European monarchs, including Richard the Lionheart, to recapture Jerusalem. When Richard fell ill, Saladin sent his own personal physician and a gift of snow and fruit to help him recover. Such acts of generosity and respect for his adversaries were unusual in the context of medieval warfare. Saladin's chivalry and military prowess in defending the Holy Land against the Crusaders made him a legendary figure in both Islamic and Western history. Number 5. Richard the Lionheart. Richard was born on September 8, 1157, in Oxford, England, the third legitimate son of King Henry II of England and Eleanor of Aquitaine. Richard rebelled against his father, Henry II, alongside his brothers, Henry the Young King and Geoffrey, Duke of Brittany. Henry II's death in 1189 led to Richard's ascension to the English throne. Richard's most notable military achievements were during the Third Crusade, where he earned his epithet, the Lionheart. He was known to lead from the front, participating directly in combat, which earned him the unwavering loyalty of his troops and the nickname, the Lionheart. Despite suffering from scurvy, Richard personally led assaults and showed remarkable tenacity. After the city's capture, he ordered the execution of approximately 2,700 Muslim prisoners when Saladin delayed ransom negotiations. Richard's charismatic leadership and his ability to inspire his troops were key factors in his military successes. Although Richard was unable to recapture Jerusalem, his negotiations with Saladin led to a truce that allowed Christian pilgrims access to the Holy City. Richard the Lionheart's life and achievements have been immortalized in numerous works of literature, art, and folklore. He remains a symbol of knightly valor and chivalry, celebrated for his military prowess and his leadership during one of the most significant periods of the medieval era. Am I the only one that didn't know Timur the Lame was one of the most terrifying medieval warriors? Born in 1336 near Samarkand in present-day Uzbekistan, Timur sustained severe injuries in his early 20s, which left him with a pronounced limp and the nickname Timur the Lame, or Tamerlane in Western accounts. Timur began his rise to power by unifying the fractious Turco-Mongol tribes in the region. In the sack of Delhi, Timur's forces sacked the city, killing an estimated 100,000 inhabitants. The streets were reportedly filled with corpses, and the city was left in ruins. His ruthless tactics, including widespread massacres, instilled fear and ensured swift submission. He was adept at using psychological warfare, rapid maneuvering, and innovative battle strategies to outwit and overpower his enemies. He often used terror as a tool to ensure compliance. After the massacre at Isfahan, Timur ordered the construction of a pyramid made from the skulls of 70,000 inhabitants. This gruesome display was meant to serve as a stark warning to other cities about the consequences of defying his authority. He also captured Baghdad, one of the most important cities in the Islamic world at the time. In response to the city's resistance, Timur ordered the massacre of 90,000 of its residents. His forces reportedly stacked the heads of the slain into 120 towers. Despite his reputation as a ruthless conqueror, he was also a patron of the arts and architecture. Timur's empire, though short-lived, had a lasting impact on the regions he conquered. His reign marked the beginning of the Timurid Renaissance, a period of significant cultural and scientific advancements in Central Asia. Timur's legacy as a ruthless conqueror remains infamous. Number 3. Attila the Hun. Are you terrified of the unstoppable force that was Attila the Hun? Born around 406 AD, Attila rose to power by uniting the Hunnic tribes and forging a formidable empire. Known for his ruthless efficiency, he led devastating campaigns against both the Eastern and Western Roman empires. After conquering the Nisus, Attila allegedly massacred its inhabitants and left their bodies to rot, sending a clear message of terror to other cities. In the east, Attila forced the Romans into paying hefty tributes after sacking key cities. In the west, his invasion of Gaul culminated in the fierce Battle of Chalons in 451, and his subsequent invasion of Italy in 452 saw cities like Aquileia and Milan fall. His approach to Rome was famously halted after a meeting with Pope Leo I, a testament to his legendary status. Attila's leadership and charismatic command over his troops made him a force to be reckoned with. His death in 453 marked the end of an era, but his legacy as the scourge of God endures, symbolizing the might and terror of the Huns. Exposing the terror in medieval warfare, we present number 2, Vlad the Impaler. Born in 1431, Vlad III, also known as Dracula, was a fierce ruler of Wallachia. Captured by the Ottomans as a young boy, he learned their tactics and later used this knowledge to defend his homeland. Vlad became infamous for his brutal method of impalement, earning him the nickname the Impaler. He even left a forest of 20,000 impaled Ottoman prisoners to deter further invasions. Vlad once invited the sick, the poor, and the elderly to a grand feast in Targovist, promising them a better life. After the feast, Vlad locked the hall and set it on fire, killing everyone inside. He claimed this was done to rid his land of those he considered useless and to save them from a life of misery. Despite his brutality, Vlad was seen as a national hero in Romania, fiercely protecting his people from foreign threats. His ruthless tactics and strategic genius made him a formidable adversary and an enduring legend, inspiring Bram Stoker's Count Dracula. Number 1. Genghis Khan. Born around 1162 as Temujin, he rose from humble beginnings to unite the Mongol tribes and create one of the largest empires in history. Through a combination of diplomacy, strategic marriages, and military victories, he succeeded in uniting the tribes under his leadership by 1206. He was then proclaimed Genghis Khan, meaning universal ruler. Genghis Khan's military genius was evident in his innovative strategies, such as highly mobile cavalry and psychological warfare. He employed strategies such as sparing a few survivors to spread terror about the Mongol approach, using fake retreat tactics to lure enemies into traps, and slaughtering entire populations to serve as warnings to other cities. His conquests spanned China, Central Asia, the Middle East, and Eastern Europe. He was a ruthless leader that struck fear into his enemies. After the death of his son-in-law during the siege of Nishapur, Genghis Khan ordered a brutal reprisal. Genghis Khan's forces killed an estimated 1.7 million people in the city, although this number is likely exaggerated. Beyond his military prowess, Genghis Khan was a visionary leader who implemented meritocracy, promoted trade, and established a stable administration. His policies fostered cultural exchange and religious tolerance across his vast empire. The Mongol Empire connected the East and West, promoting trade along the Silk Road and contributing to the global exchange of knowledge. Genghis Khan died in 1227, but his legacy endures. His descendants continued to expand the empire, influencing global trade and cultural exchange. These warriors were not just fighters, they were legends whose stories have transcended time. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more historical insights.